Hey, what's going on, guys? Now, it's only been 2 games, but I've been really impressed with what Devin Vassell has done so far this season. But before we get too much more into it, this is a YouTube video, so I am legally mandated to ask you guys to like and subscribe. I know I hate it too, but now that we got that out of the way, let's get into it and talk about Devin Vassell a little bit. Now, Devin Vassell is on the San Antonio Spurs, if you didn't know, and he's a really great offensive player who can score from all 3 levels. He can stroke it from 3, he can finish at the basket, and he can get crafty in the mid-range a little bit too. Not to mention that his hair is also immaculate, but he's been really good for the Spurs so far this season in the loss to Dallas and the win against Houston. Obviously, going forward, he's not going to be their number 1 option probably. This season he might be, but I'm saying going forward into the future, you would hope that would be Victor Wembanyama. And I think Devin Vassell is the perfect kind of co-star to have around him. Really, from what I've seen from Devin Vassell, I think he's the kind of perfect player you'd want on any team. Literally any team could use a guy like Devin Vassell. He can put the ball in the basket, he can finish plays, he can create for himself, but he also doesn't gum up the offense with like getting trigger happy with the ball. He knows when to move it to his teammates, he knows when to kind of spot up and let others take it, but he also knows when he needs to attack and be aggressive. I think that's something that separates him from someone like a Jordan Poole kind of guy. Not that Jordan Poole is a bad player, I like Jordan Poole, but you know, Jordan Poole has some offensive problems, I'd say, where he just comes down the court, you know, quick step back 3, and it's like didn't even check to see if he had any other options on the court. But Devin Vassell is the kind of guy where he can move the ball in the offense and he can attack when he needs to. And I think that's a really valuable thing to have in an offense. We've talked a lot about the offensive side of the ball, but he's a solid defensive player. He's not going to win any all-defensive awards or anything like that, I don't think, unless he takes some major steps I don't see coming. But, you know, he gets the job done on defense. But really what I want to talk about is the Spurs as a whole. I think they're a really talented young group of players who have a lot of energy, and really the core 4 guys I want to talk about is Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, and Victor Wembanyama. Now, Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell, they're kind of similar players. They can kind of score from 3. They can finish at the basket. I think Devin Vassell is probably a little bit better in the mid-range than Keldon Johnson, but he can get it done too a little bit. But they're just kind of like the 2, in my mind, perfect secondary shot creators and shooters that you'd want around a star like Victor Wembanyama. And what we've seen from Victor Wembanyama so far has been really promising. You know, he hasn't had any of like crazy games yet, but they're definitely coming. And the way he moves on the court, the amount of ground that he covers, the balls that he can go get, the lobs that he can throw down, there's just so much to like about Vic. And Jeremy Sohan has been running the point so far this season for the Spurs. And, you know, he's like, 6'8", maybe 6'9", I think 6'8". But watching him play the point forward has been really nice to see. He's a really talented guy on the court. He can play defense. He can put the ball in the basket a little bit. That's not his bread and butter by any means. That's definitely more on Vassell and Keldon Johnson right now. But he can do it a little bit. He can create for his teammates. He can rebound. He can play defense. And they have some other depth pieces that are kind of nice to see too. Like Cedi Osman is a nice depth piece. Zach Collins right now is starting at center. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Zach Collins on this team in a year or 3 years from now. Will he still be starting at center? Will he be on a bench role as the backup center because Vic kind of takes over the 5? Or will he not be on the team? I would like to see him stay on the team. I think whether he stays at the 5 next to Vic or kind of goes to the bench because Vic takes over at the 5, and maybe someone who's not on the team yet, their next big draft pick, can slide into the starting rotation. But overall, Zach Collins looks like a good defensive presence and solid enough on the offensive side of the ball too. Just the energy that this team plays with, watching the Spurs, is a really fun experience, I think, so far this season, and hopefully it continues. Because even with just Victor Wembanyama alone, I think they're already at the top of a lot of people's like NBA League Pass teams list. But the energy and the camaraderie that everyone else on the team is playing with has just been a real treat to see. And I think Devin Vassell will be at the forefront of that. I think he'll be Victor's co-star for years to come. I think Keldon Johnson and Sohan are also going to be there, and I think that's going to be a scary, what's the right word? Quintuplet? I don't know. Scary quintuplet for the league to deal with for years to come. I think Popovich can do something really special with these guys. We know what Popovich can do as a coach. He's been doing it for 28 years now, and I'm just excited from the future. That's really all this video is. I'm just really excited to see what the Spurs can do in the next few years. If Vic can continue to progress and be, what we think he can be, the sky's the limit for this Spurs team. Maybe at least one championship out of this team. But yeah, there's just a lot to like. But that's all I really had to say about the Spurs and Devin Vassell today. Leave what you guys think about the Spurs and their future down in the comments. What do you think about Devin Vassell? And what do you think about Vic so far? Is he living up to your expectations? Is he not? And also, maybe talk about how the other rookies, how's your rookie on your team doing so far this season? There's a lot of good rookies out there. Scoot's still settling into things. I like what I've seen from Brandon Miller. But there's a lot of really exciting basketball going on this season. And one more quick note. After watching the Pistons put away the Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks are really bad.